So that's where you want to contribute, you want to share at a higher level. I want to give more of myself, not just the external part, not just what I can give materially, but what I can give as a human being. How can I help people lead a better life? Has it ever happened to you, for distraction, of course, that you've put on your underwears over your trousers, or say your socks over your feet, over your shoes? I doubt it. But if it did happen, you would have gotten away with it with certain embarrassment. But things can get very serious when this comes to priorities. Now, if you mix up priorities and you mix them up, well, you're going to have problems in your life. And as a matter of fact, all the problems, I could say that, all the problems that you're meeting in your life are because the way you live and you work with your priorities is totally wrong. And that's why you're meeting drawbacks in your life. You know, it's as if you wanted to bake a cake, right? And you have to go through a process, through a sequence of things that you have to do before you put the thing that you were working on inside the oven, and it comes out as a cake or as a pie, whatever. If you mix up this order, you will not have a cake. You'll have a disaster. That's exactly what happens in life. And that's why priorities are so important in your life. Now, priorities define us in a given moment of our life. You know, what that means is that they tell us who we are in different stages of our life. In our childhood, we have certain priorities. As teenagers, different priorities, young adults, then adults, then mature, then old, whatever. They're all different priorities. They change. Why? Because we are growing. If they do not change, if, for example, you stick to the same values that you had when you were like 20 years before, or 10 years before, it means you haven't grown. Now, let's not mix values with principles. Principles, by definition, are immutable. They cannot change, and they mustn't change, and they mustn't be ignored. So those never change. But what you give importance to, emotionally speaking, of course, are your values. And these must somehow change. It doesn't mean that they disappear, but their priority changes. It's not as important. For example, when you're young, you will never put health as a priority for you because you're healthy. You know, you're fine, you're great, your body responds perfectly to anything you want to do. When you get to 50 or 60, well, health starts to become something you want to take care of, so it becomes a value. See, things change, and we must be aware of these changes, because these values, and more even so than values themselves, but the priority of your values is what define your life. That's why it's so important that you know what your values are and where they are positioned in what we call a hierarchy of values. Now, when you respect values, it does not mean that we won't make mistakes. Oh, we will make mistakes, always, for all our lives. But you see, making mistakes and taking an entirely different road in your life, that's a whole lot different. You can fix mistakes, but if you take the wrong road in your life because you weren't certain about your values, boy, before you fix that, it's going to take a lot, if you will ever be able to fix it. So that's why priorities are priorities. That's why they're so important. And it's so important that you know what you're dealing with within yourself. You see, it's not you actually who decide what your values are. It is nature. Now, when I talk about nature, I'm not talking about the green, the fauna, the flora. I already said that before. Okay, I'm not talking about that. Nature is reality. It's what you are operating in without even realizing it. Because, okay, we realize we're in a family, we're in a business, we are in a, I don't know, initiative, whatever. But in all these contexts themselves are within, you want to call it a matrix? Let's call it a matrix that has laws, that has rules, that is programmed in a certain way. Okay, now you can believe that all this has happened spontaneously, or you can believe that it is a God that created all this. Okay, that's very personal, and it doesn't make any difference for what I'm talking to you today. The fact is that you must know that you're operating within a matrix. If you're enjoying what you're listening to, don't forget to click on the like button. And if you don't want to miss more videos like this that can contribute to your personal and professional growth, subscribe now to the channel. We all are. And we have to know the rules. We have to know how to deal with them. What does that mean? Is that the priorities instinctively follow a certain, how can I say, sequence. Okay? You start from the bottom, which is your material and physical. And, if, for example, money, success, status quo is important to you at that age, which it should to a certain extent, because you have to build yourself. You have to build yourself for yourself, for a company, for your family, whatever it is. Okay, you have to build yourself, and you need to be very solid on that. But then at a certain point, you're going to feel that you need to have stronger and better relationships. So the emotional, relational aspect of your life comes up, and you feel it, because it is not just enough for you to make money and be successful. You want to somehow get other people involved in what you're doing. Of course, the material part does not go away. It's still there, but it is at a lower level with respect to the emotional one. And you will love doing that, doing it more for others than for yourself, because the material is just about yourself and your family. Okay, that's it. But the relational is not just for you and your family, it's even for others, and you want to share it. So that happens, and then you say, yeah, okay, that's great, I love doing what I'm doing, and I love doing it for others, but I want to do more. So you need to develop the mental aspect, the mental level. That is your next priority. In other words, how can I make this even better? How can I make even more money? How can I make people even more happy and more willing to be involved with me? How can I do that? So I need knowledge, I need skill, I need more authoritativeness, I need more self-confidence, I need to grow. So when you're focused on those things so that you can build yourself stronger and not just to survive as it is in the first level, then this is going to fall in cascade to the relational level and to the material level. And then there is the uppermost level, which is spiritual. Now, I do not intend spiritual in a religious way, okay? That's the most ephemeral thing that you can operate in. It's impalpable, it's intangible, but yet it is what drives your life. That's at the top. And it does so whether you're aware of it or not. So it's not a question that I must achieve the spiritual level. You're already there. The only difference is that you're not aware that it is. And if you're not aware, you do not have control of your life. Because if you're not aware of your spiritual level, you will tend to operate downwards towards the material, where there's very, very little control. Because if you don't have to eat, you don't have to eat, and you have to go and look for it somewhere. You have no control on that, apart from going and chase for it. But where at the spiritual level, where you decide, what do I want to live my life for? So that's where you want to contribute. You want to share at a higher level. I want to give more of myself, not just the external part, not just what I can give materially, but what I can give as a human being. How can I help people lead a better life? That's the spiritual level. And when you're up there, then you're going to affect the mental level, which is going to affect the relational level, which is going to affect the material level. They don't go away, but they get stronger. And all because of the spiritual level. That's how important that is. Now, it's not easy to figure out what your values are because you can feel them, but you can't really, they don't have a connotation. Okay, they're not, you cannot describe them. You cannot, you don't know what they are. You just feel them. You feel that your life is in a state of change, but you don't know where, how, for what. And so you need support in that. We didn't have that once, but because we weren't in such an evolved society, when things happen massively and very fast. So perhaps 100 years ago, that was not so necessary. We had religions that would take care of everything. Just follow God, that's it. Today, you can still, and I believe so, I believe in God, so that doesn't go away. But the way I approach God, the way I relate to God is much different than when it was 100 years ago. There's more consciousness, there's more awareness. And we see that going on in the world too. There's a massive increase of wanting to believe in something that is above us. Perhaps we don't know what religion that belongs to, we have no idea, but we need, and we feel the urge to know more about that. And that's what goes on exactly in our lives. And what you have to do is to not only understand what your values are, but the priorities. In other words, which value is more important than the second one and the third one and the fourth one, etc. Where the first value is the most important one, it's your guiding value. That value that if you were to, how can I say, violate or breach that value, you are going to feel terribly. If you do not know what your values are, you're going to feel uncomfortable, but you're not going to feel very, very, very bad. But if you're aware of it, because you chose it, and because you somehow swore to be faithful to that value, you are going to feel bad. But that's okay. At least you know what happened. You know that you have control if you want to. And then, of course, we follow. We're human beings. We make mistakes. But we can correct ourselves, and we correct and follow a new road. So I do this in my coaching. And I've decided only until Sunday that if you can DM me, write me an email or whatever. You can ask for this test. And well, it's not a test, it's an exercise. Together, we're going to be working on your value system. I will do that for free. That alone is worth anything between 300 to 400 euros, just that session. We're talking about a 30-45 minute session. I will give it to you for free. And I will not sell you anything. I will not promote anything. That is a promise. I already said that. Okay, when I invite people freely to a session, it means I'm not going to sell them anything. So this is just about me and you doing our work together to help you find more clarity in where you're going and what you want to be, and the difference you want to make in this world. This is what it's all about. See you next time.